Setting up your meeting. And we are live. All right.
Cool.
Wanted to welcome everybody. We're here as a part of our ongoing series and a portion of our belief that real estate professionals should really try and be a resource to the community, something we feel really strongly in. And one of the primary duties of real estate agents is education. So trying to be as inclusive as we can and get out good information to the entirety of the community. So we want to welcome you and thank you for joining us. With you, as always, your hosts, Justin Whitkins and Mr. Justin May with the Whitkins Realty team at Remax Preferred. And as a portion of our ongoing series, Ask the Experts series, I'm super excited for our next guest. This is something that's been in the works for almost 4 months now. Actually, Justin was making fun of me today about how excited I was about this, but it's one of the biggest pieces of the home purchase or home sale process, and that's a home inspection. So joining us is Mr. Matt Schwindinger with Badger Home Inspections. Matt, thank you and welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Justin.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about your company and why you initially became a home inspector.
So I've been a home inspector in the Madison area now for almost 5 full years, doing it full time ever since day one. I've always enjoyed construction. I love houses. I love seeing new things each and every day. I love interacting with people, and I love being part of the real estate process, just in my own little way.
Very cool.
Yeah, so that's really awesome. Yeah, so Matt, I guess I was wondering, you're probably surprised at what you find, how many first-time home buyers really know very little about the inspection process, right? I mean, I know when I was first getting into the business and everything, I was really surprised myself. Can you give us maybe a complete overview of what a typical inspection looks like?
You know, the unfortunate reality is almost every first-time home buyer has almost zero clue about the whole process. That's why it really takes a good agent to get the ball rolling with them. You'd be surprised how many first-time home buyers have never even changed their own furnace filter or done any maintenance to a house. They've been dependent on their parents or landlords or campus housing in order to do these things. Heck, half of them I think would struggle to change a light bulb. So having a home inspection, they're able to go in there, see things through my eyes, ask questions, figure out, hey, is this going to be a good solid house for us, or is it going to be something we're going to have to stick a ton of work into and, might get a little bit frustrated.
Yeah, for sure. So when you're going through the process, kind of from start to finish, what's the first thing when you walk into a home you've never seen before? What are the first few things you kind of try to look for?
Well, my normal strategy is I do some of the outside work first. It gives me a chance to open doors, get lights turned on, check the AC, check the roof, the garages, things like that. Things that I'm not going to have really any need for the buyer to be present for. That's why I tend to show up a little bit early and kind of get the ball rolling. It speeds the process up a little bit. And that means that the buyer will have to spend less time at the inspection. And in the same realm of things, homeowners want to get back to their house, especially if they have kids or dogs or working from home during these times. It makes it as efficient as possible.
Yeah, for sure. So when you get there and you're looking around on the outside of the property first, and you come inside the house. I guess, what are a few, are there any few key things that you kind of see? I know a lot of times my buyers are surprised, that you might look at an outlet that's missing like a cover plate, or, you might see an outlet that maybe just looks funny. I mean, what is it that, like, you kind of, when you're looking around the house, what do you key in on the interior, as far as maybe we could just start with like electrical items like that?
Well, electrical items, that's actually one of the most common issues with a house. You get into these older houses, you may have 3 or 4 generations of wiring. Some of them do not play well with each other. You get some old aluminum wiring that doesn't have any grounding. That's why we see a lot of the old 2-prong outlets. Every now and then you'll still run into the knob and tube, and it'll still be active in the house. We all know the fire implications associated with that. So it's a good idea to have the electric gone all the way through, especially in those older houses. The newer ones, still happens that, maybe the electrician was going 100 miles an hour and then had to cut out for his union lunch break or something and forgot to hook a ground up. I mean, it all happens. We're all humans. So we have handy dandy little testers and things to alert us to those problems right away. And normally they're easy fixes.
That's awesome. I'm always really surprised, by how much an inspector like you knows about all the different details in a home. I mean, you can walk in, you know something about, mechanicals, whether it be the furnace or the water heaters. You have to know something about, like we said, electrical. You also have to know things about plumbing and, venting and things like that. I guess, is there any area for you that's, that you're surprised that buyers are really, I guess buyers are surprised that about?
Well, depending on the situation. First-time home buyers, they have a million questions, which I absolutely love. I love answering questions for them, to a point, obviously. But I get a lot of repeat clients that have bought 2, 3, 4, 10 houses in their lifetime. And so there's not a whole lot at that point that I can teach them, even though a lot of times people are walking through a house and they're only spending 5 minutes. And if they like it enough, they write an offer, and the next time they see it is at the inspection. So sometimes it's new to them. They don't even remember bathrooms. They don't remember the kitchen or how big the basement was or what size garage it had.
How did you get to know so much about, like, all those little facets in a house? I mean, you're just one man, but you seem to know 5 different trades or something. It's like kind of I find that fascinating myself, really.
Yeah, well, got to be a little bit of a jack of all trades to do this kind of work. We have to remember, though, we're not code enforcers or anything like that, but we're looking for the condition of the house, FYIs, defects, that type of a thing that can really affect the overall value of the house, the safeness of the house, and that's really our piece of the pie.
Matt, I think what you were saying about how little time a lot of average buyers spend in a property before they're asked to purchase it, that's really important information, especially with as fast as the market is moving right now. Again, that's a primary reason of why our team is always so focused on trying to be that resource and get the information out. I think the majority of home inspections tend to focus from the buyer's perspective. That's certainly the majority of your business, but can you speak a little bit to pre-inspections of a property for sellers prior to them getting the house ready to list? What are some of the things that you look at in that scenario?
So again, with the speed of the market right now, pre-inspections are really important. You're getting some really tight deadlines out right now. Mm-hmm. It used to be an inspection contingency could be a month. I'm lucky to get 2 weeks anymore. So trying to slam everybody in and keep everybody happy is difficult at times. So pre-inspections, before you call Witkins Realty to list your house, have it checked out. We're all guilty of getting into our houses, not taking care of them, and we feel like, oh, we just replaced that water heater 2 or 3 years ago, and it's 15 years old now. So time flies when you're having fun, obviously, but there's a lot of things that kind of get swept under the rug, and this will kind of maybe open their eyes, give them a chance to make some repairs, make some updates, get things serviced like they were supposed to, so that they have all that all laid out, and there's going to be fewer hurdles during the process.
Yeah, it's oftentimes, as real estate professionals, we get asked some tough questions, because we can't necessarily coach a seller on how to fill out a real estate condition report. So, that's where we rely heavily on inspectors that, you're really the expert in that regard. And I think it's so important, again, time passes, and what might be acceptable for me in my property might be a completely different scenario for some buyers. So thank you for that in-depth answer. That's awesome.
Certainly.
Yeah, Matt, I guess one thing I was wondering about, I guess something that should be in every buyer's mind is safety. And I guess, what is one of the biggest safety concerns that you look for in an inspection?
Well, for starters, checking your smoke detectors, checking your carbon monoxide detectors. Simple things that we can do to avoid fires. Checking, make sure cover panels are on, outlet covers are on. Cleaning your dryer vents, that's another big one. One of the leading causes of house fires, things that get neglected all the time.
Safety is definitely the number one question that really should be on everybody's minds, I think, when we have a home inspection, and that's one of the primary duties. I think followed very closely by, after safety is, almost hand in hand with safety and on everybody's mind is money. So can you speak a little bit to, what are some of the biggest ticket items that you look over, or what are some of the most expensive repairs that you've kind of seen come up that, we can kind of help coach buyers and sellers to watch out for even prior to, making an offer to purchase on a property?
Well, we have to remember each and every house is going to be its own separate house. Each house is going to have its own set of difficulties, pluses and minuses. Okay. I tell people all the time, the two most important parts of a house are going to be your foundation and your roof. If you got a good solid foundation and a solid roof, you can fix everything else in between. If you have a terrible foundation, it doesn't matter if you built a Taj Mahal above it. It's going to fail. If you've got a leaky roof, you're in for a world of hurt until you get it fixed. I tell people all the time, the worst thing you can do is try to get an extra year or two out of a roof, and it starts leaking, and before you know it, it's going to damage the sheeting, it's going to damage the roof system, drywall, insulation, and it becomes a much bigger process than just replacing a roof.
So something like a roof that probably gets neglected by a lot of people because it's just, you don't really pay attention to it. It's the thing that's protecting you from everything, but at the same time, it's just like, well, it's just a roof and it seems to be okay. I guess I'm trying to think of something that would maybe surprise a buyer that, maybe something that they thought you could look at, but you couldn't. I don't know. I'm having a hard time thinking I'm thinking seasonally, but so in the winter, coming back to roofs, if you're out there doing an inspection in the winter and there's a snow covered roof, maybe you can find a better example that's more seasonal. But I'm just thinking, how can we inspect that roof if it's full of snow?
Well, there's a couple of ways I can answer that. If you know you have a terrible roof, list it during the winter, and maybe the inspector won't be able to see it. I shouldn't say that out loud, obviously, but the best possible thing that we can do during the winter, if there's snow cover on a roof and it's obviously unsafe to walk and I'm not going to be able to see anything, that's when attic inspections are very important. So coaching the seller to clean out the closet to allow me access to the attic is really crucial. So if we see any stainings, any issues up there, we can alert them to it right away. And if we need to, you can extend your inspection contingencies, things like that, in order to maybe find a good day where a roofer can get up there and take a look at it.
Absolutely. There are always going to be surprises, and I'm sure you've seen some pretty crazy things. Whether it's just kind of accidental or are people trying to cover something up? I'm sure that happens too. What if you go into a garage and the floor is so covered with stuff you can't really see the foundation of the garage? Then are you able to? Is there any way you can get under there, or you just have to wait until they can move the stuff for you to get there, because you're not going to do it, right?
Within reason. We have to lean on reason here. I'm not going to be their moving company and move everything so I can take a picture of it and then move everything back. We have to use common sense when it comes to that. There's a lot of times I get into a house doing an inspection and they're in the process of moving out. So they relocate everything to the garage or for staging purposes or whatever. So it does get in the way at times, but as with anything, we have to do the best we can. And if I have to disclaim an area because it's stuffed to the rafters and I can't see anything, that's kind of where we're sitting at.
I guess, no, that's awesome. I wonder, have you ever found, or can you think of what was maybe the biggest surprise or something that comes to mind right now where you were you couldn't believe what was behind that picture, or what was behind the, something like that?
Oh, how much time you got?
got a couple minutes here.
Oh man. Well, I've run into live raccoons in the attic. That was kind of fun. Obviously, you find your bats and your mice and your everything else. I've found leaks in walls, in between walls, that it didn't really ever show up anywhere. It managed to find its way from the second floor all the way down to the basement. And it took us probably a good hour and a half to track it down. I've had a TPR valve on a boiler blow up, shot water all the way across the room. That was interesting. Luckily, I was tucked in behind, what was that? Probably a water heater, and it kind of went right around me. So it was a nice way to wake up in the morning.
And dodged the bullet on that one, though.
Very much. That stuff's hot.
Back to costs a little bit. Is it the job of a home inspector to come up with estimates on everything? In an inspection report, we're going to find, it's going to vary again by house, but let's say we find 20 things wrong. This is something that always surprises me with working with buyers and sellers. Is it the inspector's job to come up with a dollar cost amount?
No, it's not. That's the simplest answer for it. It really comes down to doing your homework, getting some estimates, and each contractor is going to be different in the rate that they're going to charge you. It's going to be based on the materials you're replacing things with, and the availability of those contractors. A lot of the good ones are very booked out. They might be on a 6-month waiting list. So having an agent with good referral bases is really huge, especially right now. As far as replacement costs and things go, you really just have to reach out and see what you can get.
Absolutely. I think that's always, again, so important in selecting your real estate professional that you work with. they have to set expectations, right? Because you ask 6 people, you're going to get 6 different answers. So, making buyers, when you're working with a buyer, making a buyer aware on the onset that, yes, we're going to find 15 things wrong with the property, but that doesn't create a punch list of, we need these 15 things addressed. It's much more, we come at it under the scope of safety, or, what are true defects, and focus on the biggest ticket items. Because, in a house, we could be looking at some of those things that are called out could be as little as like, a $15 repair, but we also might have found things that are 5 or 10,000. So yeah, I think that's a fantastic answer.
Good rule of thumb is you can ask for everything. They don't have to do anything. Okay, so you have to decide what is important, pick your battles. And some sellers are willing to work with you a long ways. Others are kind of take it or leave it. So defects are, your safety net to get you out if you need to. Hopefully it doesn't have to come to that, and people can kind of bridge the gap and make things happen, but it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That really brings up a good kind of point for me. Could you expand on like who decides whether it's a defect, and is that up to you? Is that up to the buyer or seller, or is that up to the lender or appraiser? Like, where does that fall? And I guess who gets to call that a defect?
So at the end of the day, I have to do my job. So if it's legitimately broken, it's posing a safety or health issue. If there's something legitimately wrong with it, I have to call it out as a defect. If it needs to go further, I recommend a contractor assess it, or we get another professional in there to get their opinion on it. Happens all the time. Again, I have to do my job in that aspect, but buyer's agents, seller's agents, Mr. Seller, Mr. Buyer, they're all going to have their own opinions on it. Okay. I know a lot of people that will ask for every last thing I write up as marginal to be fixed before they even think about taking the next step. Is that realistic? Probably not. Most of my marginal summary is more of your kind of walking to-do list, things that as you have a little extra time, money, ambition, what can I do to improve my house? So little tidbits, some of them are maintenance type of things. Getting ready to say your furnace is 23 years old. Hey, start budgeting to replace it, get a home warranty in place. There's things that we can do to kind of mitigate these risks, and those would be things that would help with that.
One of my absolute favorite questions to ask, Matt is one of the most highly sought after home inspectors in South Central Wisconsin because he is so thorough. He stands behind the inspection. He is there, for buyers and sellers if there's a discrepancy or misunderstanding with, any of the things that got called out on the inspection report. So my favorite question to ask any inspector, and it really kind of puts them on the spot, but a little bit of role reversal. So, and this hits home with Matt because I know he just recently purchased a house. So if you were in the shoes of the buyer, what are the top things that you look for when you do a home inspection? What would be the most important things for you, if you were to purchase a particular property?
Oh, that's a loaded question again. So I bought the new house kind of as is. I didn't obviously hire another inspector to do it because I kind of know what I'm looking at. And for advice for first-time home buyers, I would first of all find an area that you feel comfortable in. It meets your needs, at least at that time, or for the next, 5 years is the average. Start from there. When you go to do your walkthroughs with your agent, check out the foundation, take a peek up at the roof. If you can see a bunch of curled shingles, be aware that that's probably going to get called out on an inspection. If you look at the electrical panel and it says Federal Pacific on it, we're going to have some problems there. There's a lot of little indicators. If you look on the furnace and you don't see any maintenance for the last 15 years, then you want to start asking some questions. So that would be a couple of the quick little things that I would look at. Each person is going to be different. Everybody has a different background as far as their construction know-how, their do-it-yourselferness. So some people are going to have a higher threshold for dealing with these things, and others just simply do not.
It's a great reply, Matt. Is there, I guess, one of the questions I had, I was just wondering, now, is there anything that a buyer that hires you for an inspection is surprised that you don't look at all?
I'm going to look at everything I can possibly look at in a house. Anytime you skip over areas, that opens you up to a lot of liability. So I want to make sure I can get to everything I possibly can in a house.
I guess that probably goes back to the question I had earlier when I was asking, do you look underneath rugs, that have a piano sitting on top of them? That's probably not your job there, right? So it's like, well, they should have moved that piano for me. And
asked that because he recently had an inspection with that situation.
Yeah.
These are valid questions.
Yeah.
So a home inspection is supposed to be as uninvasive as possible. Okay, so I take the liability of moving things, and if I were to break things, damage things, I have to fix them or replace them. So if I don't feel comfortable moving a $10,000 piano to check out the floor underneath of it, I'm probably not going to do that. And there's always going to be a disclaimer in there saying, hey, any damage that's covered by the piano, the couches, the carpet, the 20-foot rug, if it's under there, I can't see it.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Can you talk to us a little bit about costs associated with the home inspection? Is there a set fee, or is that based on square footage? How do you go about determining costs?
I usually base things off of square footage, how far I'm going to travel, the age of the house. There's a big difference between a 3-year-old house and an old farmhouse that was built in 1900. A lot more things going into it. So it's usually going to take me a little bit longer to do those. Those farmhouses are typically not in the middle of town either. So you got to take a few of those factors into place. Radon is obviously extra. Condos are cheaper in the sense that, typically the association is going to cover the roofs and anything exterior. So it's going to cut down on the things that I'm going to have to check out because it's all covered. So it's gonna vary based on several factors.
Would you say there's an average? I mean, is there ballpark or just very specific, case specific?
I'd say your typical inspection is gonna start at about $350, and then based on the size of the house, how far we're going, it's gonna go up from there. Just like any other service.
Yeah. So, for a buyer, in terms of protection, they're out there making the biggest financial decision for most of them of their lives. We're not talking, serious dollars, and especially for the amount of protection and insight that you get on the property. So that's great. It's awesome.
So, I mean, think about it this way. You're about to make the biggest purchase of your life. Say you're dropping $400,000 on a house. Pretty big investment. If I were to charge them, say, $400 to do the inspection, that's 0.001% of the value of the house to have it professionally looked at. I can usually find $400 worth of something wrong with the house that they can bargain to get fixed within sometimes 10 minutes of me being there. So I'm free money after that. So yeah, it is an extra cost, but if I were to shell out that kind of money, if I were the bank, I would almost insist on having an inspection being done.
Yeah. Yeah, the amount of money that it can save consumers, buyers and sellers, is literally thousands and thousands on every average transaction. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's powerful. All right. I think, I really truly hope that people have found some value in this. We are trying to be a resource to the community. If you're out there and you're working with an agent that isn't helping you to understand each portion of the process and make you as comfortable with it as possible, I think those are some things to kind of question. I wanted to end on a bit of a lighter note here. One of my favorite things again, and I always try and not be a distraction during home inspections, but sometimes I'm a chatty individual and have that effect. Matt, can you tell us what are some of your like all-time most crazy finds on an inspection? I have one in particular that I recall. If you don't bring it up, I'll bring it up. But what's the craziest thing that you've seen on a home inspection?
Well, I think I remember the one you're thinking of. There was an old rotted tree stump that was holding up an entire deck. It was the only point of reference on that entire structure, and that was a classic one. I'm glad we got that reinforced, and we were able to safely move on from that one.
Yeah.
That was definitely interesting. I think I still have
pound it down to the tree stump then, just nail it right in.
Yeah, they just threw a deck right over the top of it. The thing was rotting through.
That's awesome.
Not structural, huh?
Oh, not even slightly.
Yeah. Well, we're going to put up Matt with Badger Home Inspections contact info in the comments section here. We truly hope you found some value in this. We are always available for you if you have questions, whether you're looking to purchase in the next 6 months or the next 6 years. Justin and Matt and myself are always here available to you. Matt, we just really, truly want to thank you for your time and your knowledge. Any last words of advice for buyers and sellers?
Do your homework when you pick an agent. Hopefully you end up on Justin's page at some point. I guess do your homework. Make sure you have your ducks in a row before you go tour houses and want to put an offer on a place. Get your pre-approvals done. Do everything the correct way, and it'll save yourself a lot of headaches down the road.
Absolutely. It's
Really
about
great stuff.
putting those systems in place. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much, Justin. And Justin with Whitkins Realty team here, and Matt Schwendinger with Badger Home Inspections. Thank you so much for joining us. Truly, if we can ever lend a hand for you, that's why we're here. So thanks again. Hope everybody has a great evening.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks, Matt.
Good night.
See you guys.
All right.